Ladies and gentlemen, last night I went and saw Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, and today I'm going to give you some points, some of my thoughts about the movie, and hopefully help you figure out whether or not you should go see it in theaters. Spoiler alert, you probably should. This review will be largely spoiler-free until I very, very clearly indicate like this that spoilers are going to be happening. I will make sure that I do not suddenly start talking about spoilers. You will know very, very clearly when the spoilers are about to begin, and I will also have them timestamped in the description down below. We're going to have some lighter spoilers here in a couple minutes, and then we're also going to have some heavier spoilers at the end of this review. Without further ado, let's get into my review of Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. Ethan Hunt and the IMF team race against time to find the Entity, a rogue artificial intelligence that can destroy mankind. The villain of this movie is kind of twofold. So, on one hand, you have the Entity, which I guess is the bad guy, but then you also have the Entity represented by a physical person, who, of course, the physical person wants to control the Entity. Let's get real here for just a minute. And that physical person is Gabriel, portrayed by, I believe, Esai Morales is how you say his name. I'm glad that there is a physical bad guy, not just the bad guy is an idea, because in other movies, you know, that may work, but the fact that the physical, it's kind of like how in Avengers Age of Ultron, technically the bad guy, the main villain of the film is Ultron, which is a computer program, but Ultron is given a physical body at one point, right? That is kind of like this. The AI is represented through Gabriel in this movie, and it works pretty well and without like any confusion or whatnot. The other bad guy is Time. I don't know any other way to say that, but Time is the recurring villain in this movie. So right off the bat, just going ahead and getting it out of the way. If you have seen any previous Mission Impossible movies and you enjoyed them, go watch this in theaters, because I think you are going to greatly enjoy this if you have seen any other Mission Impossible movies. I would recommend your theater going experience will benefit from having seen Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, aka Mission Impossible 7. I would recommend that. You don't have to watch it, and that's actually another thing. I think the movie does a good job at catching you up to speed if you haven't seen all the Mission Impossible movies before. The movie does a good job at catching you up to speed without feeling like the first 30 minutes is only flashback. There are a lot of flashbacks, admittedly, in the first 30 minutes, but there is not an excessive amount. It's not literally like, on last episode of Dragon Ball Z. It's not holding your hand with what all previously happened. I do think your experience will benefit greatly by having seen Mission Impossible 1, 3, 6, and 7. The rest of them are very good. In fact, actually not included in that list is my favorite Mission Impossible movie, but all three of those have characters or bits that recur in this movie. I will not say who necessarily, but all three of those movies you could benefit from having seen. So if you want the essential homework, that's your 4 assigned movies to go see before you see this one. And again, you don't have to have seen these movies to enjoy Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. I feel like I needed to clarify that so that some of you don't decide, oh, I'm just not going to go see it. The movie requires homework. It doesn't. You can go see it. I'm saying your experience will be slightly enhanced if you know a bit about the character's world and some of the things talked about in this film. Now, there's not really a way around this, so let's just get it over with. This movie is 3 hours long, and it does feel a little overstuffed at times. It feels like there is a lot happening and that there are a lot of different things to follow. I think it balances that pretty well, but that is my biggest criticism of the film, is that despite the 3-hour runtime, a lot is happening. And especially, my least favorite part of this movie, weirdly enough, is about the first 20 minutes. Because the things just happen so quickly in the first 20 minutes. It's literally like, okay, we're one place, bam, whiplash, we're in another place. Oh, bam, whiplash, we're in another place. It felt very sudden and almost unnecessarily fast moving for a 3-hour-long movie. I get that they're trying to rope people into the movie. I get that they're trying to get people invested in the film, but it felt quite annoyingly fast. Really, before the title sequence at all. I won't tell you what happens, because obviously that would get into spoilers, but that part does in fact stick out in my mind as my least favorite part of the movie. But once you settle in, once things get going, once the story gets developing, it does end up being a movie that you can very easily sink into and settle into watching. I think that the film does a good job of concluding character arcs. I think that characters complete their arcs both in this film and in the broader story in general, and it does that without feeling shoehorned in most of the time, with the exception of 2 or maybe 3 characters. I won't say who, because that would be spoilers. So, to wrap up my non-spoiler segment, I would like to talk about the theatrical nature of this film. This is a movie that you want to see in theaters. You may not necessarily want to see in theaters, but I'm saying compared to, even if you have a big TV and good sound at home, the theatrical experience for this movie, and I can't really explain why because it's going to go into spoilers, but the reason you should see this film on as big a screen as possible is because there is just a lot to take in. And especially with the sound of theaters, sound is a very, very big part of this film. And I really, really thought it had a fantastic sound mix. I would recommend seeing this in theaters. I wouldn't necessarily wait if you aren't necessarily super jazzed about spending the money, but you kind of feel like you might want to see it, then go to a matinee. Go to like a noon showing if you're able to. Even the noon showings on Saturday, most places still get matinee pricing. So that is going to conclude our spoiler-free segment. We are fixing to go into light spoilers. I am not going to straight up say things that will completely spoil the movie for you. That will be saved for my heavy spoilers segment. So please go see the movie if you're even considering it. Let me know your thoughts. Come back here, comment down below what your thoughts on the movie were and if you enjoyed it or not. Okay? Okay. We're getting into light spoilers, guys. All right, here we go. There is a scene that keeps getting cut back to. This is about, I think it starts about an hour and a half into the movie. There's a scene that keeps getting cut back to, and it's a very tension-filled scene, but not that much is happening. It's just kind of people talking about something, talking over a situation, and it's tense, but it feels a little forced, right? Like, it's characters that with the exception of one character in the room, we've never met these people before, so we don't really care about them that much. It was a tension-filled scene, so that's why I'm not mad that it was included in there, because at least it's not like complete tonal whiplash, but it's characters that we don't necessarily care about all that much, which makes it feel kind of like a cop-out to cut back to this scene so frequently. And if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. I don't want to say what it is for fear of spoiling it, but it's a scene that takes place largely in the same room with the same characters. You know what I'm talking about if you've seen it. I also am just going to be perfectly honest, and this is not a heavy spoiler because I'm not going to discuss it at length. I don't like how open-ended the ending of the film was. I feel like for a movie called The Final Reckoning, there should have been a slightly more conclusive ending. I don't want to say this without knowing it for certain, but it almost felt like kind of like a corporate movie move to be like, all right, we're gonna basically leave this at a place where we could continue if we wanted to, but we don't have to. And that felt a little annoying for a movie called The Final Reckoning. That was just my own personal thoughts on that. The biplane fight between Gabriel and Ethan is like one of the top 3 Mission Impossible chases of all time. Very, very tension filled. Very, very good. Very entertaining. Stupid, obviously, right? It could never happen, but very, very cool. Really, really great sequence. You know, I was also kind of a little disappointed at how little masks were used in this movie. For like the rubber masks being one of the mainly recognizable things in Mission Impossible, they only used them in one scene. And it was just 2 people taking off masks in that one scene. And honestly, I was kind of floored because I was like, wow, it's kind of the main staple. Obviously, I'm glad they didn't overuse it like some of the movies have, but I was a little surprised at how little they did end up using the masks. Also, and this is nitpicky, this one particular character gets revealed to be like linked back to another character from a past movie, and we're supposed to care about that, but, and no disrespect meant to the actor portraying this character did a very, very good job, but I didn't care. I was like, okay, that's that guy's son. Okay, cool. Am I supposed to majorly care about this? It felt franchise finale-y for an annoying reason. I can finally talk about it, because it's the light spoilers segment, not the spoiler-free section. The reason why you should see this in theaters is specifically for the submarine sequence. The sound design in the submarine sequence is peak sound editing. It's very, very good, and I highly recommend seeing it in theaters, if nothing else for that sequence. The first 45 minutes of the movie also felt pretty awkwardly paced, since it was a lot of talking, very little action. It was some action, but it was a lot of dialogue, and that felt a little annoying, to be perfectly honest. I was a little confused at what the mission is. Again, this is due to the fact that this movie is a tad overstuffed. I a couple times found myself going, oh, okay, well, what's this character's job right now? What's this character's job right now? I was kind of losing track of that with how much they want you to keep up with. That concludes our light spoiler segment. We are now getting into heavy spoilers. The heavy spoilers are going to be very, very quick, so if you want to skip to the end of the video, you could just skip to the time code on the screen right now, but I am fixing to delve into very heavy spoilers. I'm not going to say what happens exactly, but I'm going to give my thoughts on something very pivotal to the plot that does in fact happen. So you have been warned. 3, 2, 1. A character dies in this movie. A pretty important character to the story. And I think they did that in a very good way. I think that they made it sad, obviously. I think they made it impactful, which was nice because there have been select characters in the past couple Mission Impossible movies that their death feels kind of meaningless, like there, wasn't really a point, but this character's death did feel impactful. It did make me sad, and I was like, oh, that was a good scene, that was important to the movie. That needed to be there. And finally, my head kind of itches. That's a little weird. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to see another Mission Impossible video, that's going to be right over here, where I discuss and rank the Mission Impossible movies. And if you want to see a random video of mine, that will be right over here. I'll see you there. My head still itches. This is weird.